Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So if you watched a recent video of mine, you know that I asked a question, am I switching to HDZero? And if you watched the whole video, or if you didn't, you're about to find out, I am going to be switching to HDZero here in the very near future. The question today is, should you be switching to HDZero? Five different ways that you can fly your drone today. You've got, of course, the old standby, fly line of sight. Nobody wants to do that, but there are some guys that are really good at it. But anyways, you can fly line of sight. You can fly using FPV, flying with analog video. You can fly FPV and you can use DJI, digital HD video. You can fly FPV and you can use HDZero. You can fly FPV and you can use the Walk Snail Fat Shark digital HD system. So there's your options. Should you be switching from what you're currently doing? And if you're not currently doing anything, what should you choose to use? That's the question on our minds today. So for me, I started out flying with analog, as did the vast majority of people who have been flying more than a few years. They've been flying, they flew analog, and they might have switched from analog to something else by now, or they might still be flying analog. If you're coming in new today, the vast majority of people coming in new are probably going to choose DJI Digital HD, or Walk Snail Fat Shark Digital HD, or possibly HDZero. That's your three main choices when you're coming in today. You might also choose analog if you're coming in today. There's a plethora of reasons, but probably the main reason, you get two reasons: just visually what it looks like, and how good the video signal is, and two is cost. Cost is probably your main reason. If you're getting into FPV, analog is the cheapest way to fly your drone FPV, hands down. And there's a wide range of options on video transmitters, cameras, antennas, you name it. You've got a wide range of options, and every single frame can suit an analog setup. Not true for the other three options. If you are on a seriously strict budget, you might as well choose analog. If your budget's a little more and you're just getting into this, you've got some options. You can do HDZero, you can do DJI, you can do Walk Snail, and they all have their pros and cons. That's kind of what I want to talk about. DJI's got great penetration, like I've talked about in previous videos, mostly because it's doing retrying. Walk Snail, again, great penetration. It's new though, so there's still some bugs. They're still working out the kinks, but it's getting better, and I'm sure, in a very short while it'll be, a nice solid system that you can choose. And it's got, good penetration because of the retries, but because of that, it's got a higher latency. Just in general, it's going to have a higher latency. Now, there's been videos countering this ad nauseum. I don't care. It's got higher latency because it's going to retry. Now, in practice, it may not be too bad, and you probably won't notice anyways. We're humans, and the vast majority of us don't have that high of fast of reflexes, and we're really not going to notice. But there are guys who can notice. And the video currently is 720p on DJI, although the version 3 is going to be higher, but I'm not going to talk about version 3. It's still not out yet. And then if you have the Walk Snail system, you can do 1080p, and currently with HDZero you can do 720p, but 1080p is available when the goggles come out, so it'll have 1080p as well. And I think all of those that do 1080p are doing it at 30 frames a second. I might be wrong, but I think they all do 30 frames a second, 1080p. A little more latency there when you factor that in. Should you choose HDZero? What people is HDZero suited for? In my mind, there's a very distinct group that it's suited for, and I would not currently, until the goggles come out, I would not recommend HDZero for someone coming into the hobby new, because there's better options currently, and that would be your DJI or your Walk Snail system, and probably DJI over Walk Snail currently, just based on the way that it works. in the very near future, either one of them be about the same. And maybe Walksnail over DJI because of availability. Anyways, so HDZero though I think is for pilots who are currently flying analog, who would like a much better video signal, who would like to get into the digital realm and would like to do so in the cheapest way possible. So if you've already got analog goggles and your analog goggles have an HDMI input, which a lot of them do, then HDZero is probably the way to go for you. If you are flying analog and your goggles don't have an HDMI input, I would say you might as well go with either DJI or Walksnail. Sorry, but that's my opinion. But if you've got goggles that have an HDMI input currently, then I would definitely choose HDZero. You've got really good low latency, you've got a very consistent latency, and video quality is great. It's very comparable to your analog as far as range. You're going to be just fine there. The only downside with the HDZero system, well, there's two downsides. One, they don't have goggles out yet, but that's coming very, very soon. I think they said maybe October time frame would be like the early release for certain people, and then probably shortly thereafter, probably by Christmas, I'd say they're probably widely available. The main downside, in my opinion, is the VTX as far as fitting it in frames. That's kind of the toughie. Now, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me, you know, maybe I knocked it down a little too much and that you can fit in a lot of frames depending on your setup, but I still think that's probably the biggest downside. If it could be just a little smaller, that would be great. That's kind of my opinion on where we're at with digital. I think digital is going to be very cool. It's definitely going to be what everybody eventually is going to go to. Is analog going to die entirely? No. Should it die entirely? No. It's definitely got its place, and it's still great. I think it's still great. It's not, video-wise, it's not nearly as clear, but can you fly with it? By all means you can. You can do some amazing stuff with it. So, you know, don't let that hold you back, and don't think that you have to switch to digital. So I'm going to fly a little bit, and they tore down my favorite thing here at the park. Now I've got the trees with the moss. It's a sad, sad day. Sad, sad day. Good, I think. See you guys in the next video. Peace.